The result of this we've all seen is that influencer marketing gets a bad rap. And I think regulating it, though, is tough. I think what we need to do is, as practitioners, have some ethic codes or some best practices. In Europe, there is a strong belief in CPM calculations, which I don't like.
All right, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you are getting the fresh-faced, no makeup, barely done hair girl today. This is just real life, and we're going to roll with it. So welcome to the podcast. I have been trying to film this intro for days, and it's been a busy week, and I'm tired of waiting. So sometimes it's just important to not wear some makeup on our face and feel confident and just show the world that, like, we don't always have to wear makeup. I do love makeup though, and that's when I wear it. And otherwise, if I don't have a meeting or a thing to do on camera, I am usually never wearing makeup. So today is one of those days. I really, first of all, just have to want to acknowledge like the amount of you who have been reaching out to me and sharing your support and your stories. And just like from the personal episode that I shared about 3 weeks ago or so from when I'm recording this. It was really hard for me to do. And I don't know, there were like many reasons why I decided to make that episode. And I don't think it's worth, maybe I'll go into it at another time. But the point being is that like, I think my secret wish was that I would find other women who were going through those things just to like feel a little less alone. And I'm so grateful for so many of you that have reached out to say like, I also had a strained relationship with my mother, or I'm also going through fertility issues, or, someone told me all sorts of stories that I've heard. And I'm so grateful and so moved by that. So thank you. That is what my dream was with WIIM. Honestly, it's like creating the family that I never had. And I think that's one of the many reasons why community is so important to me. And creating a community of just women being just like super real with each other is like what I gravitate towards. So anyways, I just wanted to acknowledge that because many of you have listened to that episode, related to it, and just like made a point to actually reach out about it. And I just really appreciate that. So thank you. This week's episode is an interview episode, but I feel like the last few weeks after that solo one, like just been doing a lot of interview episodes and like, it's all friends of mine. I haven't really brought anyone on like new who I've never met before onto the show with like a fresh interview. And today's going to be no different, but I hope that you enjoy like chatting with my friends in the industry. It's obviously enjoyable for me to just catch up with them and pick their brain. But Jeanette Okwu is definitely someone that you guys should know. She has a company called Beyondinfluence. She's the founder and the CEO/CMO of the company, which is a content creator marketing agency. She's also the managing director, DACH, of Scale Digital, which is a specialist acquisition agency. She's been in the industry for like 15 plus years. She's been developing and implementing innovative digital marketing strategies and campaigns for global brands because she used to be based in the US. And now for many years, she's been based in Germany, which I've been to Germany. Such a cool country. I was literally there for like 24 hours. So like, wish I was there for more. She provides such an interesting perspective, though, about the opportunities overseas. And it really takes somebody who understands all of those different markets. And she really brings that to the table. Also, having lived in the States to be able to compare them, I think it's so good. She obviously is well-versed in influencer marketing, but also affiliate, mobile marketing, content creation. And she's delivered impactful results, increasing brand awareness, engagement, and definitely conversion. She is incredible. She's also helped us in the past with like LinkedIn ads when nobody had any idea about it. And she was so generous and just been such a connector and a friend to me over the years. It's been wonderful getting to know her. And I'm just looking forward to you guys getting to know her too. So without further ado, because I can go on and on and on and on, this is Jeanette Okwu of Beyondinfluence. This show is sponsored by Women in Influencer Marketing, better known as WIIM. the best online community for the creator economy. You will meet fellow influencer marketers, you'll meet brands, you'll meet talent agencies to talk shop, get hired, and even find a mentor. When you become a member, do not forget to check out all of our incredible resources. For example, we have dozens of masterclasses from the top voices at TikTok, at YouTube, award-winning agencies, and women who are paving the way for us all. So if you want the chance to network with a who's who in influencer marketing, check out what it takes to become a member. Make more money and have fun doing it. Visit iamwim.com/join. That's iamwim.com/join today. And I so look forward to seeing you more around the community. All right. So, selfishly, I was just excited to have you on today just so we can catch up. I feel like we're having like regular catch ups, and now it's been like once every few months or so. I was looking forward to having you on today. So how are you?
I am good. I'm actually have a little cold. I thought I was going to dodge the bullet this winter, but now that spring has sprung, it catches up with me. So otherwise, I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. Do you think it's a cold? Do you think it's allergies? It's definitely a cold, do you think?
No, it's definitely a cold. I felt last weekend that I came out of a sauna that I should have probably worn something thicker. And then in the evening, I already noticed like, oh, okay, here we go.
Something's coming on. Well, I'm glad everything else is good. Hopefully you're on the mend from that. And I'm just excited to have everyone sort of be like, I'm sure a lot of people in our community are familiar with you. You're part of our mentorship program also, which I love. And you've just been part of the community for so long. But for the handful of people who are like, who is Jeanette? I'd love for you to just tell us like a little bit about your come up in the influencer marketing world. And also a fun fact, like a unknown, something that maybe I might not even know about you.
Right. Yeah, of course. So, we go back a long time, and me and the influencer marketing thing go back even longer. I've been in social media since, I think, 2004, 2006, the rise of YouTube, Twitter back then, and Facebook. This was all for me so exciting back then. And then when we hit 2010 with Instagram and bloggers, etc., I knew that there was something there, and I just hopped on the bandwagon when the influencer marketing industry started to really ramp up. At the time, I was living in Los Angeles. I spent in the United States 20 years, hence my not so German accent. And I was working back then for an agency that was the in-house agency for Jaguar Land Rover, and we created an influencer marketing strategy that also could operate globally. And that's a little bit of my sweet spot. Also, having moved back in 2016 to Germany to take that knowledge and just make possible when brands want to expand either from the US into Europe or the other way around. So I've been in an influencer marketing industry, I think now for almost 15 years, if you can say that. It's like, oh my gosh, can't even fathom that. And a fun fact, a little bit something unknown about me, is I used to do rhythmic gymnastics, with the ball and the ribbon and all of that. And I was almost close to going to the Olympics with that.
Wait, that is such a fun fact. You probably had to really study hard and practice hard. How long were you doing that for?
I think I started when I was, second grade. Yeah, second grade, and then up to 16, 17. Yeah.
I love that. Are you still athletic? Do you still enjoy sports?
Let's put it this way. I think I'm counting on all of that, and I should do more. So if I do a little, then muscles have a memory, and I think, oh, I don't need to do that much. So I should do more.
Well, we all should do more, but that's so cool. I did not know that about you. And that is a very fun fact. Also, I wanted to congratulate you. I saw that you won the Global Top 30 Leading Women in the Creator Economy for this year. So, congratulations on that. That was really exciting to see you on that list. And that's like, I don't know, it's a very particular award, right? It's like it's global, it's women in particular. It's not just, advertising and marketing, it's a creator economy. So it's such a specific award. I can imagine that it's really meaningful. And I'm curious, like, what does receiving that mean to you?
To me, it means quite a bit because unlike in the US, in Europe, influencer marketing is still a little bit looked at, well, what is this influencer marketing thing? I don't know. I can't really take it seriously. But more and more we get attention, and being on the forefront of that to me is a testament of work that has been done. I also love that it's about women because our industry most of the time is being done by women. Let's be honest about it. And we have the WIIM, it's mostly women. And I think recognizing that is huge. It's an accolade that I wear proudly.
Yeah, and as you should. But I don't know, it's an exciting award. I think that also, like, do you find that it's like when you found out that you won, like, do you really feel like you take in the compliment of sorts or the achievement? Like, how do you personally resonate when you find out that you win an award? Do you really like fully take it in?
I think I gasped it in when I got the email. So I was like, oh, wow. And then the first thing was I screenshotted it and then I sent it to my family WhatsApp chat, my daughter and my husband. And I said, look at this. And then my daughter, she says, well, I didn't expect anything less. And it's like, okay, very nice. My mom is very proud. I think in our fast moving industry and profession, I love that. I love it's all there, but I'm moving on already to the next campaign. But I know for this year, it's all there. And I know when we have the Global Influencer Marketing Award and all those things coming up, to which I'm traveling to in London, etc., you will be with like-minded people and other professionals, and they will recognize you. In the real world, outside on the street, nobody will know.
It's true. But I can imagine also, as somebody who owns your own business, that it can be really helpful to put it, like, to display it proudly. And clients will say, oh, she's that much more credible. And people will have you top of mind because they see you on a list. So, as much as I would like to say, like, oh, it's just an award, like, strategically, especially when you own your own business, like, it's very helpful. It can be incredibly helpful from a perception standpoint.
It's very interesting. I was a couple of days later on a monthly meeting with Scott Guthrie from the IMTB in the UK, and also with Quentin from Cold Square, because we meet regularly and talk about the industry in Europe, etc., and UK. And Scott says, oh, congratulations, you made it on the top 30 list, etc. And I just said, oh, I thank the Academy. And we just made a joke about it. But he said it's a serious achievement. Yeah.
It is. I also, like, I don't know, I'll speak personally, but I know that, like, if, the few times that I've gotten anything like that, like, I'll have that, like, immediate dopamine hit, where I'm like, oh my God. But then it fades really quickly. And I, like, similar to what you were saying,
How this makes you feel.
yeah, it's interesting, like, about awards, like, you get that immediate dopamine hit, when you get it. But I think that too often we're just like, we're on to the next thing. It's like, all right, now back to business. And, like, it's important. Your business got to run, and that's like the day to day. But I also just think there's something important about, like, celebrating those wins, like truly celebrating it, because otherwise it's like, what is the work for? Like, I feel like there's, like, this really strong culture to just, like, keep pushing, keep driving, keep grinding. And, like, most of us love that. There is a joy in that, we love the work that we do. But I just think, like, I wonder if there's just moments where it's like, oh, we can, like, slow down a little bit and also just, like, celebrate ourselves. We're so used to always celebrating other people, pushing other people, working with influencers or the client or the whatever. And I don't know. It's just something that's been on my mind. So I hope that even if it's like a week later, go
Yeah.
celebrate. I hope you do. It's a big deal. It's exciting. I'm curious. So you've said you've been in the industry now for about like 15 years. I love that you have this, like, from my perspective, a unique perspective in that you're based in Germany and you're seeing the market outside of the US, but you've also lived here. So you're very like fluent in both of those things. And I'm curious from your perspective, where do you think our industry struggles the most these days? I don't know. You probably can rattle off a whole long list, but like, what are a couple things that come to mind?
Yeah, I think the biggest constraint is, to me, that in the end it's about the client, right? So we're an agency. The client expects so much from influencers. In the end, it's about numbers. How many sales can an influencer drive? Forgetting that they don't put the same measures onto an ad, right? But they treat influencers like an ad. I always say to my clients, if you want to have an ad, do an ad. But these are people. It's a people business. That's a component that with digital marketing you do not find.
Yeah, 100%. And like, why don't you think that gets through still? Because, like, I agree with you. I've heard it before. I've said it, you say it, but like, what's the disconnect? Like, why doesn't that really sink in?
I think it's because if because we look at content that is being done by people who, with the democratization of the iPhone, basically made something out of themselves by themselves, right? And since it's this little thing here, people think, oh yeah, if this person can do it, I could do it too, but I don't want to. So we're basically belittling the hard work that is being done. So that's why I think for me internally, because I've thought about this a lot, is maybe we're a little bit jealous, or we don't want to give them full credit for their hard work because they need to know so much about their content, about the algorithm, about what to do with your content so it resonates with the audience, the time of posting, the do a reminder or whatever it is, right? So, and we don't give enough credit to that.
So there's like a lack of respect, it sounds like. Certainly a lack of like understanding and empathy and like understanding what's on the other side. I mean, that's like the whole world, right? It's certainly the creator economy for sure as well. What do you like? So if this is our biggest struggle right now, I'm not asking you to like solve the problem, but like, where would you start maybe to solve the problem?
I think even though we're in this industry for over 10 years full fledged, there's still a lot of education to be done. And I think that's something that we need to push forward. The WIIM needs to push forward, and we're doing that already. I do this here in Germany with a similar association, public association, where we also have members. Education, I think, is still something that could change a lot within our industry. I know it's tough and hard and it's like a long road, but I think that's how you bring those two different things together.
For sure. Definitely education is super helpful. So, speaking of education, I want to just like, I want to get candid a little bit about pricing. I think that's like another widespread discrepancy in our
Mhm.
industry in terms of what to charge, what's within the range. And I will say, like, I'll say candidly, like, I come from the very like regulated world where I was working with actors in commercials. So that was all, for the most part, regulated by the unions here, SAG-AFTRA. And so a lot of the rates, they were all pre-negotiated and they weren't great and there wasn't really flexibility. So part of the allure of getting into the creator economy for me, like many years ago, was because there was flexibility. Like coming from the talent management space, I was like, I could negotiate whatever I want for this person who I think the world of, and I can get them an incredible rate and I can do so much better by them because I love negotiating, right? But I think that what I won't even say what I think. I've heard a lot of chatter within WIIM that rates are all over the place. They're not even within the ballpark of each other. And I think that's a problem. You talked about education. I think that Some of it perhaps stems from like a lack of experience or education in terms of like what others are charging, et cetera, et cetera. What are you seeing in terms of pricing? And in your eyes, what do you think needs to be changed?
If I'm honest, it's great with SAG-AFTRA. It's a regulated space, but the influencers, it's a free market. So you can basically call up any price you want. I see this currently with a campaign that I'm doing across the globe with smaller influencers. They're like 5,000 followers strong, some of them, some 15,000 followers strong. They quote prices. I'm like, excuse me? And then I have people with 200,000 followers do it for almost the same price. So, of course, it's crazy. But I think in the end, it's also the result of A, opportunity, B, if you can get that from somebody, why not? Right? Who am I to tell you if you've gotten it with company A or brand B that you cannot ask for that? It's just that me working for brand C, I'm sorry, that's not what I want. And I wouldn't recommend it to the client because, in the end, and that's what we discussed before, it's about accountability. What do I get in return for this? Because there will be a CFO or a CEO sitting, okay, what are we doing with these influencers here? How much money did we spend? What did we get from it? Impressions? I don't see this in my ROAS or in my ROI. And I can understand that. And that's the result of this, we've all seen, is that influencer marketing gets a bad rap. And I think regulating it, though, is tough. I think what we need to do is, as practitioners, have some ethic codes or some best practices. In Europe, there is a strong belief in CPM calculations, which I don't like. I know that in the US, things are handled a little bit more different, which I do like. But I did speak to a colleague the other day, and they have a quite interesting approach. They do a CPM, but they do a CPM on stories. And they ask, when they work with the influencer, to send over their insights on stories over the past 7 to 10 to 14 days, not older ones. And that's when they calculate their CPM price, and they say, so approximately 25 euros is okay. So that's how and then they offer that as a price. And if the influencer or the manager says, no, we're not doing it, then they say, okay, then we can't do it either.
It's interesting. I appreciate the way you started your answer, especially. It's like that it is a free market. That is part of the beauty of it. I think it's like a really unique opportunity because what I heard you say is like there needs to just be more communication, right? Like from the influencer or manager, especially manager's perspective, quote what you've gotten before. If you've gotten that rate before, then phenomenal, fantastic. I hope that person would continue to work with you because they also got the results they were looking for from that rate. But if you got it before and it's a similar campaign or like scope, then quote that. But I think that like not enough people have strong pitches, right? Because quoting a price without any sort of either justification or any details in that, and you have and you've done this enough that you have an awareness that you're quoting on the high side. If those two are true, then in my opinion, it's lazy. Like it's just lazy and it's probably not going to convert. And so at that rate, like why even bother? It's just wasting everybody's time. Because I think it's one thing to quote a high price with no context. And then it's another thing to quote a high price and say, I'm aware that this is on the higher side. However, here's my thought process behind it. Because I can imagine that from your perspective, if you hear that, there's just like immediately a little bit, you're more open to hearing it. Or perhaps like there's more of a respect there that like, okay, well, this person is reasonable. Like they have an awareness, they're self-aware to know that where their price sort of probably falls in comparison to others that I'm getting. But they're also going a step further and saying, and here's why. And perhaps saying also like, and if this is still too high for you, maybe we can explore something in 3 months or so once they're off of the Netflix show that they're on, or there's different circumstances. Or Or perhaps instead of Instagram, we do something on TikTok instead. Quick question for you guys. How much do you love redlining agreements? Yeah, me too. Let me tell you about our latest sponsor called Caveat. So, Caveat with a K is an AI powered contracting platform that simplifies and automates your contracts. It'll hugely improve the way that you review partnership agreements. So, if you're a media company or an entertainment company or a management firm, it's a must have tool. Look, sometimes you do need to hire a lawyer, an expensive lawyer nonetheless, to work on an agreement because it's over a certain threshold, and a good lawyer can be invaluable. But what about all those other partnerships, those other contracts that are for $5,000 or even like $1,000? That's where Caveat comes in to support you and your team through AI to process your contracts to gain a competitive edge through data-driven insights and automatic AI-driven red lines. It's game-changing tech, and it's founded by 3 brilliant women. So you know why I'm out here supporting it. Get time back in your day because Caveat will help you with the part of your business that may be your least favorite. So head to our website. It's iamwim.com/caveat for a completely free trial. That's iamwim.com/KAVEAT. I hope you guys love it as much as I do. How do you feel when a manager presents you with options like that? Is it too much? Or are you like relieved? You're like, oh, good, they're thinking.
No, I love that actually. I also know that when we're negotiating, the client has a specific thing in mind. You have a program, you have a strategy, you have all these things. But I love that when the manager says, or the influencer themselves, that when they say, oh, maybe I could do this and that, or I could add a few pieces of content and put that in for free, that's fine too. It just needs to match the expectation or also the level of understanding of the program and the opportunities from the client side. Here we are at the education topic again.
Yeah. And you know what comes to mind too when you bring that up is that, like, I can imagine that it might be if the initial outreach or brief, really not, you're not at a brief stage yet, but like if the initial outreach and conversation doesn't have some of the expectations listed or some specific answers that the manager or the influencer would like to know in order to be able to price accordingly, I can imagine that like they should just ask more questions before necessarily like quoting a price. But I also have heard from managers that they're like, I don't want to, like there's a hesitancy in doing that. You're dealing with hundreds of influencers at a time and it's like a volume business. How do you feel about asking more follow-up questions, or is there a point where there's too many questions?
Sometimes yes, because you just want to, your task is to bring 200 influencers on board for a campaign, which means, and I'm looking into my system, I have outreach to 1,500. If that doesn't go quick and we are on a clock, I don't want to have a chit chat back and forth. I just want it to be done very quickly. That's the reality, right? Of course, I want to sit and discuss and everything, but sometimes it's not easy to realize. I also think in terms of pricing, the other difficult aspect is the arrogance of brands. Oh, my brand is so cool. If I come to you, dear influencer, and offer you to work with us, you should be so happy. And actually, you should just get the product for free and I shouldn't pay you anything. So that we still have too. We have some brands that are really mature and they know what they're doing and they have probably really full-fledged influencer marketing programs and activities. But there are still a number of brands and businesses that don't get that there is actually a lot of work that goes into it. You want high quality content that needs to be produced, that needs to be edited. You have a team, it costs time. You may have to have legal advice. And if you have a manager who takes a lot of this off, that person needs to get paid too and gets a portion of the fee. It's all included.
For sure. And I think the pricing, it's like money in general, right? Like it's a tough subject for people to talk about. There's so many nuances to it, I think. But I happen to agree with you. Like, I don't think the solution is regulating it. I don't think the solution is stifling this sort of like free market that currently exists. But I agree with you. I think that like best practices would be helpful. Some like guardrails would be helpful, and just more education to say like this is a range. It's a range. I think a range is appropriate to say like within this range this is what we're working with here, but it's those companies or specific instances where they're like so far outside of the ballpark that it's like it's off-putting. And I think that some people are seeing those types of quotes more and more, and this like culture on like TikTok especially, where creators will just create content saying like you have to charge what you're worth, and like this like empowering thing, which I'm all for it. But I think it's her horrible advice to say like you have to charge what you're worth, give them no guidelines in terms of like what's a reasonable like framework to stay within, and then to just like let them go off on their own with this sort of like false confidence, because you also don't want to look like a fool when you quote something that just like is astronomical. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with you, but I also think let them do it. Let them play influencer marketing, because I think there is a professional side to it and there is an unprofessional side to it. And if the professional side is expanding from us practitioners with best in class examples of A, campaigns, B, how content is created, C, how pricing is being done, and also how you set up programs, including potentially even affiliate marketing programs and influencer marketing, and the brands that are willing to learn from that, I think we're okay. The other ones that want to empower themselves, you have them in other industries as well, and they're just slackers.
It's just, I worry that from an influencer's perspective, they don't know how to tell the difference, right? Like they don't, like I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. So maybe that's the lesson for an influencer is like, do your due diligence. Like don't just trust things at face value, just because someone posts a video on TikTok with some advice and they're like a self-proclaimed like expert on the creator economy doesn't make them one. And so I don't know. There's just a lot of like misinformation.
They will learn that's not how they get jobs. If they want to earn an income from it, that's not how it goes so much into a campaign. I mean, on the other side, you can also ask, does the influencer know what a influencer marketing manager is looking for? It's not just your pretty content. There's a method to the madness on that side, right? You have a valuable thing, and that is, to me personally, is your audience. You are just the gate to that.
Right, the vehicle.
And that's what I'm after. So in order to do that, I want specific things that come out of it. And that's where I think education on both sides, right?
Totally. And so I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. So like, if you're working on a campaign, like one that you're working on like right now, let's give like real life examples. If this campaign that you're currently working on is like a home run, and at the end of it, your wrap report is like, what is it filled with? Like, what does a home run really look like after a campaign, like a campaign that you're currently working on? What are you looking for?
Well, it's two-pronged, right? So this is an awareness campaign. And for anybody who knows their craft, awareness campaigns are not conversion campaigns. They're set up differently. So the measurement also is set up differently from the beginning. And mid-campaign, switching is almost impossible. Now, does the client want to have some conversions coming out in the end? Yes, that's why the influencers get codes. But not all of the influencers want to post codes, because the influencers that we have in this particular campaign, they are not conversion-driven influencers. And you need to know, if you want to do an awareness campaign, you pick people who are very good in awareness, impressions that you create. They also know, if they're professional about themselves, that they're not good converters. Now, I do know when I want to do a conversion campaign, I go to different people. And I know I go to this person and I have worked with her on numerous campaigns. I said, listen, I have this. Are you interested? What can we do about your base price if you do, let's say, an affiliate deal with us? She can go down. And then because she knows she sells. But with this particular campaign I'm in right now, it's not the case. So I measure awareness, and they're all small influencers. So I have to also speak to the client, say, don't expect a million impressions. Setting expectations is very important, because if you run stories with this campaign, the times or how often this will be seen is quite minimal. So I think in the end, it's also about the content that you will get, dear brand, out of it for your own usage is something valuable and measurable in the end.
I love that. I also want to pick your brain a little bit too, because I know I've said this a few times. Like, I just think it's really, for our audience, it's like an exceptionally unique perspective that you have, like being so familiar with the US market, but also like international. And I think that there's a lot of like startup brands in particular who might start here and like make a killing, but there's like literally an entire world open to like additional business. So my question is, for brands who are particularly US focused, like what international markets seem to be like really taking off these days in terms of like really being receptive to influencer marketing, and like where are the opportunities generally for expanding overseas, like for, for brands?
Yeah, so actually I can even name an example. One of our longstanding clients is Ruggable. So US brand, very successful brand, basically built an entire business with the help of influencers. And I started working with them a few years ago to introduce the Ruggable brand to the German market. And they specifically made a decision to work with me because I know both sides. I know the American market, meaning when I talked to the team, we understood each other because it's different here. Prices are different, much higher than in the US. It's harder to get the influencers to work with a brand that is not German. So there are all kinds of cultural nuances where I positioned myself, I think, in the right way because I know both sides. The opportunity that Ruggable took was that we started with a specific kind of campaign where we also incorporated whitelisting. So using the influencer account to put some paid media behind it, which was phenomenal, which was a great success. And then we expanded into other markets. We launched last year France. And boy, if you want to expand to the European market, the French people are very nice to work with. So that's very interesting for me to see again and again that it is much easier to work with influencers in France and also Italy. But, and here's the big but, the biggest budget for marketing sits in Germany. So the money that could be spent is much higher here. And that's where I always recommend to, when you work internationally, to work with people who are on the ground and understand the regions, the markets, etc.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. It's cool to know, like, just what markets are really interested in it. I mean, it's interesting to think about influencer marketing also culturally, right? Like, not all cultures like are aligned with, I don't know, like idolizing people online sometimes and wanting to get recommendations that way. Like, different cultures are different. So, but I guess like I would caution companies who are like solely US focused, because like there's just so much more opportunity out there. And I think that it would just be such a miss not to like have an awareness of it and be able to build infrastructure in order to support influencer marketing beyond. But to your original point, like I think it's really important to like align yourself with somebody who's like really well versed in those individual markets, because things can change and you don't want something to like not literally get lost in translation, but like get lost in translation. Like even on like such a micro level, like with WIIM, we're producing all these events like all over the country. And like I would never claim to know like where people want to hang out, like in Dallas, Texas, or in Atlanta, Georgia. Like, I've literally never been to either of those places. So like for me to come in and be like, oh yeah, let's do a happy hour at this time. Some people might be like, we're not like a happy hour type crew. Like we would much rather like a morning thing.
Yep.
And like where most of us live is around here, not over there. Like there's just nuances that are important. And so like getting people who are really well versed is really important, not just assuming that like what translates in one market is going to translate in the other. But with all of it too, it's all like testing and learning as well. And I think like in terms of that, I'd be curious, like what trends have you been seeing maybe in Germany and the UK? You're talking about Italy and France. Like, have there been any trends over there in terms of like influencer marketing that you found particularly effective, also different from what you've seen in the US market that you think might make its way to the US? Something to keep an eye on?
I don't think actually that would be the case. I think it's more the other way around. And I think a lot of it is also platform driven. For example, if we say now Instagram is introducing communities, the community spaces, that's what people are testing with mixed results. And I think in the end, it's about how it's being adapted by the followers. I know, for example, a couple of cases of people who have a very strong following here in Germany. They have now created extra specific community space for conversion-driven activities. Didn't work, didn't convert. So basically, what it is that take all the collaborations and cooperations and the sales stuff off of my base account and push it into a separate account. And that doesn't resonate with the audience because they want to see the good stuff. And if there are partnerships included in that, then that works. But go shopping into the other space, that didn't work. So there are some mixed results in that.
So we briefly touched earlier on affiliate marketing, but we didn't not dive deep at all into that. And it's been like a really interesting, like 2023 in particular, from my vantage point, was like a really interesting year for affiliate marketing. Like it is not a new concept by any means whatsoever, but it sort of had like new life breathed into it. I felt like creators used to be like, when I was managing talent, like they were like, once you sort of get to a certain threshold or cachet, like affiliate marketing used to seem as if it was like beneath them. Like, no, I get a flat fee. Like, I'm not going to work for all my money, basically. But I felt like there's been a shift in that. And so I'm curious if you've seen similar, if there are specific platforms that you recommend. We get that question a lot in WIIM, which is like, what affiliate marketing platforms do you guys like and use? And just like generally, like, are there things that you recommend keeping in mind when implementing an affiliate marketing strategy?
Yeah, I think that creators don't want to, you mentioned the flat fee. It's work to do affiliate because you have to keep going and keep pushing the content or the product. And it's easier to collect a flat fee. Also, flat fee is a flat fee and you have that in your pocket. Whereas you never know how much a product or how well a product will sell, even though it fits your own brand, your own creator brand. It's always you don't have the certainty. Now, some influencers know that they sell. I have one who I become very friendly with. She says, Jeanette, I don't know what that is. Whatever I show into the camera, it sells like hotcakes. So she knows it and she is all for affiliate. Most of the people don't trust themselves as a sales tool. That's why the flat fee is more attractive to them.
Yeah, it's like a safety net.
Totally. Now, I would love for people to explore. There's no shame in doing affiliate marketing and selling only 10 pieces of product. And if you sell more, you can negotiate a staggered commission fee. If not, no harm done. In terms of platform, I think Instagram, if we speak about social networks where this could pan out quite nicely, YouTube also, because you can just insert it, it's just there. You don't even have to work that hard. I'm not so sure about TikTok. I wouldn't be able to actually give a judgment on that. I think TikTok I know that we have these hashtags, TikTok made me buy it, etc. And I see on LinkedIn quite often, this project was released, or this brand or this product was launched on TikTok and it sold gazillion of times. That may be true for this particular product. But in the big scheme, I think there still needs to be a lot explored and experience collected in order to say that TikTok is really a sales channel. It may be, and I have high hopes. In terms of when you said platform where you can run these affiliate programs, did you mean technology to where to do this? Yeah, I think there are, and it's very interesting when you mentioned 2023, because we have traditional affiliate marketing SaaS platforms which have almost nothing to do with influencer marketing, right? Because you just put out a piece of content, you make deals with publishers, and click conversion, whatever, you get a piece of the action. And the numbers that you can bring in are much higher than an affiliate program for influencers. So that's, again, education. That's also somebody who engages in influencer marketing affiliate programs needs to be aware of. You won't get the same numbers like within a classic affiliate program. It's much lower because the variables are so much different. But I think that there are some technologies that have zoned in on that. Upfluence is one, for example, that I personally use. Then there is Impact has integrated the creator suite onto their affiliate suite, which is, they used to, what was it called? Activate. They bought Activate. And then as of last fall, they integrated it into their Impact suite. And that is, to me, a numbers game. Actually, it's an included system where creators are on the platform and then they can apply to programs that brands launch there, like a marketplace. I think there's also Maverick, which claims to have the biggest community in already onboarded, which I think is quite attractive. But it's attractive, I think, for the US market, not so much for outside the US, because they're very US focused. And I think there's also Captivate, if I'm not mistaken. You know this better when you do your tech days. And which ones do you know also?
I mean, there's so many of them, truthfully. Like, I can rattle off the ones that exist. I think like what I was hoping to get to are like the ones that, and believe are effective and
Yeah,
good.
I use Upfluence, and the other thing is, I would love to try out more, but it's a cost prohibitive thing, really, and only demos. They just tell a teeny bit of the entire story. You need to work with this whole thing in order to see what works and how it works for you, and if it's satisfying.
And there's also this really interesting movement also that seems to have really taken off in 2023 about like creator marketplaces, like companies. There's like a couple off the top of my head, like Trend, Tree3, although there's a few others for sure, where you, as a creator, you sign up and it basically like it brands it for you, where you can just give out that link and it's like your own personal little storefront of recommended products. And of course, it's all tracked and it just like it adds, and of course, you can combine retailers together. So it's not just Amazon it's not limited in that way. So that's interesting because I do think that part of what always needs to be infused in any selling process is keeping in mind the user experience, because the follower, the user, subscriber, what have you, like they might be completely sold and ready to buy. And if there's some little something that trips them up in the process of checking out, then it's just all for nothing. And it's what a crazy thing to like, that can be the thing that has you lose the sale, right? So I've been intrigued by some companies that have been popping up where it seems like they're mostly focused on the user experience, right? Like, so some of those platforms that I mentioned, you have the storefront. And so it's really a technology platform, because what you can do as the user, like if I'm just like, all right, this is my favorite influencer, I'm going to buy this shirt, this necklace. Well, they're all from different stores. And what the platform allows the user to do is like, it handles the multiple shipping, like ways of doing it, right? Like it just makes it seamless, and it's just recommendations from all over. And that's, I think, the key is like the checkout process for this consolidated list, combined list of different retailers is seamless, and it's a really good experience, and it's going to make them want to come back and do it again, and it's really interesting to take that approach. Have you seen anything like that? Have you seen similar?
I've seen actually last year something that was quite amazing. That was a startup company called Player Card. And what they did was not like a marketplace, although I think there could be a good opportunity to combine those things. But it was basically a layover of the content. And if you scroll your Instagram and you see something and you actually have attached your wallet onto it, you can just in 2 clicks buy from there without leaving the environment at all and just keep scrolling. You just shopped it. That to me was amazing. And if that is being developed further so that there are no kinks and the user experience is fantastic, I think it's going to make a big difference in everything. So
like not enough people talk about that, right? Like not enough people talk about it. It's hugely important, which is just the user experience. And so like you can be doing the best job in the world as like a strategist on an influencer campaign, but if like there's a bug in the site, or like it's just like it's not a really seamless experience, or I don't know, I've seen silly things where like it's just a weirdly high shipping fee. Like people are accustomed to like either free shipping, which is always of course just built into the price, that nothing's ever free, but these little things that they're not that little, it can really interfere with that ultimate conversion. So just thinking about those things as well, like as a strategist, like if I were like day one, I would go and make a purchase and see what that experience is like before you do all of this work, just to make sure that it's seamless. And also like email marketing after you make a sale, keeping them in your funnel after. Like, there's so much opportunity there that we're very like blinders on, focused on, the influencer campaigns, and there's just more opportunities. So I have a feeling that a lot of our community would love to get in touch with you. And of course, you're a member of WIIM, so you're around there. But for anyone who's listening and isn't a member, would just love to connect with you, learn more about what you do, and just say hello, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
I think the best way is always LinkedIn, Jeanette Okwu, JeanetteOkwu. That's the easiest. And from there, we can go and do calls or emails or whatever.
Perfection. So we will link that in the show notes for sure. Thank you so much for coming on. It's always just a pleasure to like catch up, pick your brain, everything. Any closing words, closing remarks that you want to lead everybody with?
Just as first of all, I'm so happy that we got to catch up. I congratulate you on your WIIM community. I see some great ladies there that I have communicated also outside of WIIM, of the WIIM environment. I just want our industry to really take off, be professionals, because I think there's so much potential there. It's only a fraction of the advertising industry, I think like 7% or something. I want this to go through the roof and take over way more.
Absolutely. Same here. I think most people listening do. So like, let's keep having conversations like this so we can share that information with each other and just make it all that it can be. So thank you as always. A lovely catching up with you. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week. If you enjoyed this episode, we gotta have you back. Check out our website for more ways to get involved, including all the information you need about joining our collective. You can check out all the information at IamWIIM.com. Leave us a review, a rating, but the most important thing that we can ask you to do is to share this podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Tune in next week.
Tune in next week.